Today, tourists visiting Milan see a modern and fast-moving city, incessantly searching for its future. But there is another side to Milan. The constant need for new services and infrastructure means that building work is always underway. While Milan constructs its future, it meets its past. It finds it right under the streets. Archaeologists busy uncovering, documenting and surveying the ancient remains of the city found during excavation work on building sites are now a frequent sight. Likewise, restoration experts are an expression of the care dedicated by contemporary Milan to the city of the past. Time has not eliminated the ancient city, it has simply hidden it from view. Many treasures unfamiliar to the general public still exist underground, forming a mosaic of remains that can be visited. In this way, you can rediscover the characteristics of an ancient and prestigious city which was once the capital of an empire. Milan, imperial capital. The ancient Roman and Paleocristian city.
Et Mediolani mira omnia, copia rerum, in numere culteque domus, facunda viro.
According to the Latin poet Ausonius, in 4th century Milan, everything merited admiration. Milan was never just a settlement, it was a major town for the Insubrian civilization, and after the onset of ancient Rome, it grew constantly, eventually becoming an imperial city and then capital of the empire. The street plan, the monuments and even private homes were improved to standards worthy of its important role. Milan soon became the center of a new religion. Its appearance was radically changed by Bishop Ambrose, the father of Christianity in this city. The earliest work involved the episcopal district, where basilicas and baptistries gradually expanded to occupy what still today represents the heart of the city, now Piazza Duomo. Descending over 4 meters underground takes us back in time, into the past, to the late 4th century.
Octacorum sanctos templum surrexit in usus.
The building, with 8 niches, was built for sacred purposes, and the octagonal font is worthy of this gift. The hand of Ambrose, skillful architect, can be seen in the baptistry dedicated to St. John of the Springs, throughout all phases of the building's design and construction. The external octagonal shell encloses a large hall. Space expands into the rectangular and semicircular niches at the sides. At the center, there is an octagonal font, which was filled on Easter Eve using a complex series of water channels concealed under the marble facing. Over the years, skilled craftsmen covered all the surfaces with sumptuous polychrome stonework. Very little remains today to suggest its former beauty. Alongside the baptistry is the apse of Santa Tecla, one of Milan's cathedrals, built and rebuilt between the late 4th and 12th centuries. It was eventually demolished to make room for the new cathedral founded by Galeazzo Visconti. The area between the octagonal font and Santa Tecla was considered as particularly sacred, and so it was rapidly taken up by the tombs of the clergy and their families who wished to ensure their immortality by being buried close to the holy buildings at the heart of the city. Before Christianity and the construction of the episcopal area, the most important location in ancient Roman Mediolanum was the Forum. This monumental rectangular space was used for political, administrative, religious and business purposes. Today, all that remains of the imposing Roman Forum is part of the paving in Verona marble and the steps running along the longer sides of the square. Originally, there were porticos and shops at the top of the steps. The remains of Milan's Forum can be seen in the basement premises of another monument that has become a symbol of the city, Biblioteca Ambrosiana, the library created by Cardinal Federico Borromeo. Not far from the library, the lower section of the Church of Santo Sepolcro is paved with slabs from the Forum. It's another treasure waiting to be uncovered. The Archaeological Museum illustrates the wealth of Milan, the imperial capital, by means of the objects in its halls. The power attributed to the gods worshipped by the people. The splendor of its private homes decorated with mosaic floors. And the luxurious domestic objects that express the wealth and culture of the city dwellers. Moving down into one of the archaeological areas opened up most recently, under what is now the Chamber of Commerce, you can walk between the foundations of the oldest public building in Milan, the theatre, where people were entertained by games, comedies, mimes and pantomimes. Not far from here, the entire western sector of Mediolanum was dedicated to Emperor Massimiano's imperial palace. Sumptuous residential buildings, private spas, gardens and luxurious guest pavilions extended right up to the perimeter of the city, marked by the circus. At the circus, the emperor would make public appearances for the people who came to watch the spectacular chariot races. All that remains of this building is one of the square towers built at the starting gates used for the races. Its profile is mirrored by the Ansperto Tower, which was originally just one of the many towers along the city walls. Powerful elliptical and radial foundations mark the position of what was once a massive amphitheatre in the southwestern quarter of Mediolanum. The stepped seating above the arena provided space for thousands of spectators who watched public executions and duels between gladiators. Urbicus was a gladiator, and he tells his story in a memorial slab which can now be seen in the Antiquarium, a new museum built alongside the amphitheatre park. It preserves the remains found during recent archaeological excavations performed in this area of the city. The massive blocks of the external facade of the Great Arena would be used to construct a large slab structure, the base for a new and spectacular building. The Basilica of San Lorenzo was born from the sacrifice of the amphitheatre. The building has undergone many changes over the centuries, but the overall volumes generated by the plan have remained the same, with a central square expanding into majestic exedre. The large windows along the corridors on 2 levels lit a vast interior, clad in colourful marble and culminating in a vaulted dome with magnificent gilded mosaics. The profile of San Lorenzo expresses both power and beauty. The shape of the central volume can still be seen, extended by the smaller buildings on 3 of the 4 sides, and crowned by the corner towers which absorb the weight of the immense dome. The columns, now a familiar landmark for people in the city, originally came from a public building in ancient Roman Milan. They were a decorative feature on the roadside front of the large atrium and portico in front of the basilica itself. From the central part of San Lorenzo, you reach the chapel of Sant'Aquilino, with its fine marble portal taken from a 1st century ancient Roman building. The building's octagonal shape and the wealth of its decoration, of which little has remained, suggest that it was an imperial mausoleum, built for the mortal remains of a member of the ruling family. The sumptuous gilded mosaic decorations in the upper part of the niches show just how popular this technique was in Paleocristian Milan. But Milan's most famous mosaic decoration is possibly that which can be seen in a small building originally constructed close to Basilica Martyrum, commissioned by Ambrose for his own tomb. The basilica was later called Sant'Ambrogio, after the man who had become the city's patron saint. This tiny structure is on the place where the martyr Vittore was buried, and it's remarkable for its lovely mosaics. From the deep blue walls, saints and bishops of Milan gaze down on the visitors. And at last we can see the face of Ambrose himself. Milan. As it builds its future, it meets its past.